Hey guys, hello and welcome to Naveed for Speed. In today's video, I am going to be showing you the Mazda CX-80. Now you might be thinking, well Naveed, you've already reviewed a Mazda CX-80. And yes, I have. If you haven't seen that video, click this link up here and you can go and check out that review where I talk about the exterior, talk about the interior and take it out for a drive quite extensively. But in today's video, I have got the plug-in hybrid version. That was in the other video, that was the diesel version of the car. And also that was a Hamura spec car, whereas this is a Takumi Plus spec. So this is the top spec. So I'll briefly show you the exterior because it's quite similar, but I'll show you the interior because this car has a little bit more of a luxurious interior. And I'll take it out to drive to see how this petrol plug-in hybrid version compares to the diesel with a mild hybrid. But anyway, let me very quickly show you around the car. You have the same front grille and the same front face as the other car that I test drove, which is the Hamura spec. But crucially, one thing you'll notice around the side here are these alloy wheels. Now, that car had these sort of black alloy wheels. These are diamond cut grey alloy wheels for the Takumi Plus spec. 20 inches again, same size, look pretty cool. This sort of two-tone, which I think make the car look that little bit more premium. And of course it should be because this is the Takumi Plus spec. As we move further towards the side, you'll notice over here, it says PHEV, plug-in hybrid. The other one said inline for inline 6. So obviously, if you do want to know which powertrain a Mazda CX-80 is using, you can simply just look over there. As we move further towards the back of the car, coming along the side, the rest of the car is quite similar. Of course, you can watch that video where I explain about the dimensions and stuff about this car. But what I'll do is I'll come to the boot over here, which you should be able to open just by swiping your foot. And it does really well to work first time. The boot is same in both cars, except that the one thing that I do want to mention, in this plug-in hybrid version, you get this 3-pin socket, so you can plug stuff in. Let's say you're going camping, for example, or you're going on an outdoor picnic, or you need to plug something in, you need to power something, you can do that there. That's basically the exterior. Let me show you the interior because there's a lot more to talk about there. Now, would you look at this? This is the interior of the Takumi Plus spec of this car. You can certainly get an impression that there's a lot more space, a lot more light, it's a lot more airy in here, and there's a lot of different materials that are working here. I'll start with the seats because you get these white Napa leather seats in the Takumi Plus spec. Again, they look really nice and airy, have a bit more of a cooler vibe to them. And you've got this sort of contrasting bit in the middle, which is textured. I think that's really quite a nice touch. The seats are heated and ventilated, and of course the steering wheel is heated as well. The steering wheel comes in leather, but it has contrasting stitching, whereas the Hamura spec car that I drove before didn't have contrasting stitching. So I might have mentioned that Mazda interiors can be a bit dark. Well, obviously this is quite a contrast to that. You've got some nice fabric materials, and you got your maple wood materials and all this chrome going on here. Lots of maple wood in the center console over here, this wide center console. Now, the Mazda CX-80, of course, we know is based off the CX-60, but this car is longer and it's taller, but also there's been a bit of a focus on the width of the driver and the passenger seats and the passengers in general. So you should feel like you've got quite a lot of room sideways in this car. And I certainly do feel like that is the case in the Mazda CX-80 in general. Aside from that, you know, you've got intelligent cruise control modes, which is a button on the steering wheel, which I didn't necessarily see that button on the Hamura spec version of the car. But I just like how everything comes together. I mean, the rest of it is quite similar. I do have to mention one thing, however, when it comes to the storage. When you compare this car to the Hamura spec car, you've got the door bins have a light which will illuminate the door bins, and also you have a light in here which is not on because I need to start the car. You have a light in here which you might not be able to see during the day, but it should illuminate Yeah, I think it's just daylight. It should illuminate that center. Let me put that down. It should illuminate that center storage area. Now, you might have noticed that when I started the car, you got, I mean, first and foremost, you got an overwhelming sound of the climate control. That's because it is rather chilly today. But you might have also noticed that there's not a lot of noise when you start the car. And that's, of course, because this is a plug-in hybrid car. You've got a 2.5 litre petrol engine, and then you've got around a 17.8 kilowatt hour battery, and you've got those electric motors. They're over 100 kilowatts in power, and we're talking, you know, 38 miles of range purely on electric power alone, and then obviously you could go a lot further on petrol power. Now, the official quoted fuel economy of this car is over 117 miles per gallon. Of course, that is based on how you're going to use this car. But of course, if your commute to and from work or wherever you need to get to is less than 38 miles, then you can just use this car on electric power alone. And I think that's crucially one of the thoughts behind Mazda creating this car, because Mazda have this sort of roadmap when it comes to reaching their electric car manufacturing goals. And I think the first stage of that roadmap was in 2022 to 2024, where it was all about preparing, it was all about sourcing materials, etc. And now they're in the second stage, which is slowly transitioning to electric power, which means the introduction of hybrid vehicles. Of course, cars like this not only give you certain benefits from a cost perspective, but they also, I mean, you get, you know, a really good benefit in kind tax rate for cars like this, so they can really benefit you if you are a fleet customer or a fleet driver. And most of the sales of Mazda's hybrid cars, particularly the CX-80, have come from fleet customers. So I think there's a need from the public for that in particular, but also it shows how Mazda are moving towards the last stage, which will be 2028 onwards, which is the introduction of a full electric car lineup. So that's basically the direction we're going, and you can see the sort of influence and the introduction of those kind of things which come together into this car that we have as an example right here, this new Mazda CX-80. Mazda say that it's going to be small, it's a niche market, it's going to be lower volumes of cars that they're going to sell, but crucially they are now in a position where they can speak to customers which they might not have spoken to before. We're talking people who are interested in a 7-seat car. Mazda have never offered that before. So now here we are, Mazda's first 7-seater car offered here in the UK. Of course, they've got other versions of the cars that are based on the same architecture from the CX-60, CX-70, CX-90, well, 70 and 90 in other markets. But this is the flagship model that they have here in the UK. And this particular one that I'm sat in is the highest trim level. So I think I'm going to take this out on the road now. And I want to see what the difference is between how this one feels and the diesel which I drove in the last video. Let's go take it out on the road. So what is the plug-in hybrid version of the Mazda CX-80 like to drive? Well, we're going to find out. Let's just start the car. And there you are. Nice and quiet. I mean, apart from that noise, it's now nice and quiet once the car is started. And if you put it into drive, you've got that instant sort of feeling of the electric motor when you're setting off rather than an engine revving. So that's quite nice actually, to have that nice smooth sort of feeling as you're setting off. And I imagine at low speeds that is the case. We'll see how that complements the petrol engine when we pick up some more speed a little bit later on in this drive. But one thing I can tell you is that the plug-in hybrid version of this car is slightly heavier than the diesel version. So the diesel version weighs around 2 tons and this one weighs around 2.1 tons. So it's not that much heavier, but it's a little bit heavy, obviously, thanks to the electric motors. I'm just going to join on to this road here, and we'll accelerate a little bit. I mean, we'll get up to speed, not accelerate, but get up to speed. And now you can hear that petrol engine sort of cutting in and helping the car forward. It certainly sounds better than the diesel version of the car. But I did get a small sense of, I mean, maybe it's a placebo effect. I did get a small sense of the fact that this car is slightly heavier. But on the road, I'm feeling the same sort of feeling that I got in the diesel version, which was that it is quite smooth, but it's quite firm. You can feel the bumps in the road. Although I think the electric drivetrain does help in terms of keeping everything smooth. At this sort of speed, I'm at 36 miles an hour at the moment. At this sort of speed, it's mostly the petrol engine that's doing the work. But as I slow down, as I come to a stop, I think in general, urban driving, that will be the case. I suspect, yeah, the electric motor is cutting in, and I can see it on this little graphic on the instrument cluster as well. The electric motor cuts in, and sort of it means that the petrol engine is not straining. I mean, together, this car with the petrol engine and the electric motor has 327 horsepower, which is considerably more than the diesel version. This car's faster to 60 than the diesel version as well. Obviously has a very good quoted fuel economy. So there are a lot of benefits to this car as well. I think for company car drivers, this one might be the car of choice out of the two, of course, and especially if you need it. If you need the 7 seats, then yeah, this one will be quite beneficial for you. What can I tell you about this Takumi Plus spec? Well, of course, there are some driver aids that can help you when you're driving along. There's a lot of creature comforts. I've got the heated seats, I've got the heated steering wheel. I mean, all these cars come with the 3-zone climate. There's this nice airy light interior, which is it's nice to be in when you're driving along. But ultimately, I think in terms of the driving experience, you don't get a lot more benefit to having a Takumi Plus spec. I mean, it might be different if I was to take this car out on the motorway, where I'll have all the driver systems helping me, like your lane keep assist and stuff like that. But ultimately, I think, if anything, it's just quite similar to the diesel engine in terms of driving feel. This plug-in hybrid version to me seems like the more obvious choice, and I think Mazda have experienced the same thing, because they say that for their plug-in hybrid cars, for their diesel cars, the demand for diesel is going down. Obviously, we're seeing that within the industry anyway, and the demand for these plug-in hybrid cars or hybrid cars in general is going up. I mean, we've already seen that the demand for electric cars is going up as well. Whether you agree with electric cars, whether you like electric cars or not, obviously they are getting adopted more throughout the industry, throughout the market now. Whether that will plateau at a particular point where everybody who wants an electric car has got one is a different matter. But of course, government regulations are coming along, and there's probably going to be a time where we're all having to drive electric cars unless something changes soon. So I think Mazda are prepared for that. I suppose they are taking what they can learn from these cars that they are bringing out now, and I hope that they're going to be able to apply it really well. But ultimately, what they've got now as a package, as an attractive package to buyers, to company car drivers, I think is really good. The main focus is about creating value here, and these cars are here to compete with the more premium brands, but at a lower price point. So that means that even the brands that are sub-premium within that area, Mazda is a bit of a leader. I think that's where they're aiming to go. And I think crucially, by creating a luxurious interior with the use of loads of different materials, especially in the Takumi Plus spec, I think they've achieved that really well. So ultimately, as an everyday car without premium prices, if that's what you're wanting, then the Mazda is a good shout for you. Whether this Mazda CX-80 is right for you, if you need the 7 seats, then yeah, I think you should definitely look into it. If you have the capability to charge this car at home, then yeah, you'll do really well in terms of fuel economy, in terms of range, in terms of just saving money, I suppose. So yeah, I mean, ultimately there's not that much difference in terms of the way the diesel feels compared to the plug-in hybrid, but the plug-in hybrid has the performance as well, despite having all the batteries on board. So yeah, I think you can't go wrong with them. You can't go wrong with these. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I was able to be informative. Make sure you subscribe to my channel because it really does support my channel, and I hope to see you on the next video. Thank you very much and take care.